Lot of debate about the cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine. Some of you are disappointed because they made changes from what they had originally planned, and you didn't get your original X-Men or a lot of the other big wigs from the Fox Marvel universe. But I like what we ended up with. I think it serves the movie quite well. And we got a lot. I got enough for a top 10 list. And even an honorable mention as well. So now that you've seen the movie, we can talk about them in detail. Let's go. And I'm going to share my own rankings of the cameos. And as always, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts and rankings as well down below. We'll start with the honorable mention, and that goes to Sabretooth and Pyro, because even though they had very little to do, just like in their original appearances, but also, at least they showed up, which is more than can be said for Azazel, Lady Deathstrike, Toad, and Juggernaut. When they went up for the close-ups, we were like, wait a minute. I mean, maybe but for budgetary reasons, offers weren't even made to those original cast members, although, let's be honest, how expensive could some of them have been? But then why even include them? Because it was weird that some of the people were brought back and some others weren't. Oh well. Although, Pyro had a little bit more to do, but Sabretooth, man, that was one and done. All right, so anyway, that's why it's the honorable mention. They deserve a shout out, though. They came to play. All right, so now it's the official top 10. Number 10, Thor crying. Chris Hemsworth might have only appeared for a few mere seconds on a screen in the TVA, but just like Deadpool, I want to know why he was crying over an injured Deadpool's body. That was great. Surely there was a longer scene that was actually filmed and didn't make the final cut, so maybe we'll get it on the DVD extras. But this was a clever way to still use a part of it. It was awesome for Hemsworth to do a cameo in someone else's movie, especially because his own Thor movies have benefited so much from hilarious cameos themselves. Way to pay it forward, Chris. A lot of the Chris's are good. There is no best Chris. Plus, even beyond the MCU, Hemsworth has proven to be a great sport and just an awesome all-around bloke. I love the guy. So Hemsworth took a lot of heat for Thor Love and Thunder, which was kind of fair. He was very much creatively involved. He didn't rein Taika Waititi in. But I don't think that we should walk away from him over it. I think he knows that it was a mistake. And he's a very gifted comedian, which has helped the character substantially. So I still love Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He does a lot of the voice work. Some other actors don't on the in the animation. So he's fantastic. So hopefully someday soon, well, in addition to this scene, we'll get to see Thor and Deadpool interact again. What a combo they would be. And they would interact so differently than Wolverine and Deadpool do. I'm excited to hopefully see it. Number 9, Happy Hogan. Now, like a lot of these cameos, I'd gotten word of the final list a couple of weeks before I saw the movie. And when I heard about this one, I expected it to be super lame. I think partially because we've been seeing a lot of Happy. Apparently, Jon Favreau always takes Kevin Feige's call. I mean, I can see why, you don't want to not pick up Kevin Feige's call, but maybe once in a while you might say, do you think we're overexposing Happy? But maybe they're not, because once again, he was fantastic. I ended up loving this scene, and also very important to the film. So Jon Favreau, it's important to remember, does have a strong comedic background. These days, he's mostly behind the camera, not for lack of trying, but he can be very, very funny. And he played really well off of Reynolds, not to mention he too was a good sport, and was cool about Reynolds really laying into his character. Aren't you the chauffeur? Which was so funny, because I think that's what a lot of us are still thinking. I also really like the joke about no RDJ cameo when Happy says he doesn't do these. And Reynolds was like, what, cameos? I mean interviews. That was great. I think it's too early for RDJ to come back. And, we'll see where Chris Evans lands on this list. All right, plus that office, whew, it reminded me of the good old days of Stark Industries with its Silicon Valley California corporate aesthetic. So beautiful. Add to that so many wonderful Avengers artifacts and mementos in a single room. They really captured that classic MCU magic. It's been around for so long, it does have a classic magic to it, that we have to look back to. Remember when? It was great. I thought that was really nice. If the Avengers were a room, it would be that room. Not to mention, as I said, Happy got to deliver a very important scene for the movie, the message of the film, that you're not supposed to need to be in the Avengers in the world are supposed to need you on the team. Deadpool does learn that lesson by the end of the movie, so maybe someday soon, a lot of wishes, or educated wishes, I guess we're making off of these cameos. I would love to see Deadpool actually on the Avengers, or at least join them for a mission. And I think this scene showed that it would work. He was in the building already. Maybe they've got an internship for the Avengers, Deadpool. It's a start. Number 8, the TVA. Now, am I bummed, super bummed, that neither Loki, Mobius, or Ouroboros showed up? I sure am. As I said, super bummed, really super bummed. I feel huge missed opportunity. But I guess they already learned their lessons. They learned how not to abuse their power. So that left Paradox to have to go rogue in his own jurisdiction, the Fox Marvel universe. And I guess those rules kind of worked for me, so I went along with it. Also, B-15 showed up, who we'll talk about in a second. So that kind of made up for it. But I would have liked to have seen at least Mobius, man. I guess he's taking a break, and Loki, of course, is in his chair. I would have really liked to have seen Mobius in particular. How about you? Who from the TVA would you like to have showed up? But I did appreciate the TVA upgrade, looking like the nicest men's store in the mall, those sweet, sweet cubicles. I was like, ooh, I'd like to see one of those. They spent a ton of money on the Loki show, obviously, but apparently it still wasn't movie money. As I said, B-15 did show up, and she's clearly been promoted yet again. We kind of saw that coming at the end of Loki season 2. And she has a very nice new office. Oh, it was beautiful. Much nicer than Renslayer's ever was. Renslayer's was nice. The TVA on Loki had kind of like a rundown kind of feel to it, like it had seen better days, but they were still trying to keep going. Whereas this seemed like the TVA was highly operational. So I don't know. What's the idea? Fox spent more money on the TVA than Marvel did? Maybe this is the TVA's new look. Maybe they've remodeled. Anyway, Wunmi Mosaku is vital to at least connecting this film to the Loki series. So I think I'm really glad that at least one cast member did show up and, gives legitimacy to this TVA for those of us who did like the Loki show all the way through both seasons. I loved it. And she does a great job with her monologue in the end, by the way. In fact, I think this movie gave her a better spotlight than she ever had on the show. Plus, will she and Peter act on their flirtation? Although I wonder how she'll feel about his extensive piercings that we found out about. Then there's also the Void and Alioth, who we in fact already saw in the trailers. But you know what I liked here? The addition of Deadpool calling out the exact Loki episode that Alioth had appeared in. That was funny. I liked that. That made me laugh. And let's not forget the TVA Hunters, who here make for spectacular red shirts with their upgraded uniforms and technology. They're pretty good in a fight, at least good enough to give something of a challenge to our heroes who take them on. They don't just go right down. So that makes them a touch above their cousins, Stormtroopers. Cousins because they're both owned by Disney. See, if the forces are a little bit more competent, it makes it a little bit more fun. The Stormtroopers, of course, infamously incompetent. All right, so number 7, Elektra. Ryan Reynolds is one of the most prolific people working in Hollywood today, and his Rolodex, so to speak, is mighty. That said, you'll notice that a lot of these cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine aren't so much driven by the characters, but by who Ryan Reynolds has a history with and can make a phone call or send a text or email. I think when we're going to go over that, but I think you'll see how that really did influence the cameos. Jennifer Garner, right? She appeared in The Atom Project, which not only starred Reynolds, but was also directed by Sean Levy. Like Halle Berry's Catwoman, Garner's Elektra has her fans. I know. And while it's been a minute, with her mostly playing zany moms these days, she does have a strong action legacy to fall back on. Too bad she doesn't get any really good action sequences here. That was weird. And if she had, she would have been higher up on this list. But she does have a fatality, her ex, Ben Affleck. That was quite the joke when Deadpool offers his condolences that Affleck's Daredevil didn't survive the void, and Elektra just shrugs and says, "It's okay." Damn! Woo! Some of the comedy here was quite aggressive. All right, number 6. X-23. I feel bad that these kick-ass ladies didn't get better action sequences, or they would again be higher up on this list. And we know that Dafne Keen can deliver action, as she was just a crucial part of one of the best Star Wars lightsaber battles ever. I know how some of you feel about that, but it was a good lightsaber battle, and she did a fantastic job. Still, it was great to see her return, all grown up and looking a lot like adult X-23, although I also appreciated the callback to her look in the original Logan film with the shades and the backpack. Plus, she got invited to the pizza party at the end, sitting next to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine as his family member. Ah, maybe that means she'll stick around? Fans went absolutely crazy over X-23 when she popped up ever so briefly in Deadpool and Wolverine's final trailer, and her Jedi Jackie also has a number of fans. So look for her in at least more Disney projects. She certainly seems to have it in at the studio, and possibly, as I said, returning as X-23, where hopefully she'll get a decent action sequence. I know she was crucial to getting the Juggernaut's helmet, but it was not really an impressive sequence. Number 5, Chris Evans. Another Ryan Reynolds. I know he's not that high up, but I'll explain. You might be like, how is he not higher? Let me explain. So another Ryan Reynolds connection. With Evans already a hilarious cameo in Free Guy, again, also directed by Sean Levy. He loves his beard, but I gotta say, gosh darn it, when he shaves it, he gives off total movie star. He was looking sharp in this film. Evans is a huge get for Deadpool and Wolverine, especially since fans so fondly remember and miss his Captain America. I dare say that when he finally retired, Chris Evans' Captain America had become the most popular Avenger, surpassing Tony Stark. I can't believe he surpassed Tony Stark. Bucky killed Tony's parents. I never understood how some of you didn't understand where Tony was coming from in Civil War. But anyway, that was the breaking point where a lot of you just decided, you just fell in love with Cap, not only because of his unwavering loyalty to his best friend, but also his willingness to question and challenge authority. He became a hero of the 99% with that film, with Tony, unfortunately, getting saddled with representing the 1%. Oh, Civil War. You know, it's so funny. Side note, I can't help myself. Robert Downey Jr. pushed his way into that movie, and it really hurt his legacy. All right, so anyway. But in this movie, Chris Evans is not Captain America. The joke is that he's instead playing Johnny Storm, Evans' very first Marvel role back when, the films, he actually was cast in the MCU while Fox still had the rights, but that was a big breakout role for Chris Evans back in the day. In fact, some people wondered if he could still be Captain America if he was Johnny Storm, and the answer was a resounding yes. However, in this movie, he's really more Chris Evans than Johnny Storm. Sure, he wears the 4 and flames on briefly, flame on, before Pyro depowers him. Pyro? Embarrassing. Anyway, it's nice that Evans made this an extended cameo and even comes back for that post-credit scene in a hilarious callback. Looks like Hemsworth and Favreau aren't the only good sports in the MCU. The camaraderie, I love it. Also, shout out to the Fantastic Car. We did see it in its brief appearance. Number 4, Blade. Oh, what an aggressive cameo! All right, let's talk about it. This is also an amazing get for the film, but let's not also forget that Wesley Snipes and Ryan Reynolds go way back. Do you remember that one of Ryan Reynolds' first major movie roles, he started out on TV, and one of the ways that he transitioned to film was that he had a supporting role in Blade Trinity back in 2004. 20 freaking years ago! That's how long he's known Wesley Snipes. Also, Snipes has been pretty vocal about wanting to protect his legacy as Blade, while many fans have said that while X-Men and Spider-Man in 2000 and 2002 often get the credit for being the beginning of the current comic book movie renaissance, many feel that the actual beginning was Blade in 1998. I know many of you do. It's almost always in the comments when we have that discussion. Everybody's like, what about Blade, damn it? Wesley Snipes says, thank you. Fans want Snipes to at least cameo in the new MCU movie with Mahershala Ali, but I think Snipes wouldn't be happy with a cameo. He feels he can still play Blade, and he's gleefully been throwing shade at the new production as it continues to suffer delays. Even here in this movie, he proclaims there will only ever be one Blade. In an MCU movie, wow. Again, as I said in my non-spoiler review, I can't believe that Kevin Feige approved that line. That's very aggressive against Mahershala Ali. And maybe Snipes is right. Not only does he do a great job here, he still does have it, but there are no updates about the MCU version of the character. Maybe at Comic-Con this weekend. But Ali also, by the way, it looks like he signed up for the new Jurassic movie. So Snipes might end up getting the last laugh. He might have wheeled this. I think they'll make the Blade movie. It would be so bad if they didn't. But this was aggressive, but also a great cameo. Number 3, Gambit. Oh, this cameo turned out so well. Better than I ever would have expected. Channing Tatum also cameoed in Free Guy, by the way. Again, starring Ryan Reynolds and directed by Sean Levy. But the duo just signed on for an upcoming buddy actioner, where Ryan Reynolds will play a police detective who's forced to work with his estranged brother who's a criminal, played by Channing Tatum. Sounds pretty good. Although it also sounds like it could go either way, I think, for both actors. They both have their ups and downs. But I think it sounds promising. I'd certainly give it a whirl. Tatum, of course, was this close to playing Gambit for reals. And in fact, he appeared wearing a Gambit t-shirt at one of the last Marvel Fox panels at Comic-Con. And look who he's next to. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Hollywood is a town of relationships. And this movie, I think, is one of the best examples of that. That's incredible. I love following the history. But this isn't a serious version of Gambit. This is a comedic one, perfect for Deadpool. And Tatum's strong comedic skills are excellent here, recalling his fantastic work in the Jump Street films. His Cajun accent, hilarious. Oh, that was so funny. And his suit, I hope, looks intentionally silly. Like nowhere near good as this concept art. But his moves, insane. I loved seeing him shuffle his deck of cards on the battlefield. Iconic. Plus, comedic or not, this is the first time we've truly seen Gambit in live action. I'm sorry, but it's true. And that makes this cameo extra special and fun. What a year for Gambit! With, of course, his amazing scenes also in X-Men 97. Clearly the character is on Kevin Feige's radar. Number 2, runner-up, the Deadpool Corps. Fittingly, the best cameos in this movie focus on the multiverse versions of its 2 stars, as it should be. And Deadpool, as I said, is the runner-up. Pretty selfless of Reynolds and shrewd to put the spotlight primarily on the return of fan favorite Wolverine. But the Deadpool Corps definitely rocks as well. Entering the movie as a callback to the iconic return of the snapped heroes in Endgame, I like that. We start off with Lady Deadpool, voiced discreetly by Blake Lively and rocking one heck of a ponytail. I don't think that's actually Blake Lively in the suit, but it was very effective. I think they did that very well. We got a lot of fan favorite Deadpools in the Corps, tons of deep cuts to the comics, particularly the Deadpool comics. And it's funny that they not only can all regenerate, well, except for Nicepool, who we'll talk about, but all have a soft spot for Peter, who was the only one who was able to call off their assault. That was fun. But the real standouts in the movie when it comes to the Deadpool Corps are, of course, Nicepool and Dogpool. Nicepool was created just for this movie, and I can see him, though, being used in future comics because I think he's so effective. It's a funny idea, and in some ways, he's very much like Peter with his nice guy, regular guy attitude, except for the luxurious locks and, of course, that he has Dogpool. Dogpool is from the comics. However, he's never been this ugly or adorable. Great change to the character. And this is something else I wouldn't be surprised if we see reflected in the comics. Our Deadpool instantly falls in love with the little guy, so therefore, so do we, and it provides the movie with some of its funniest and sweetest moments. Then finally, the top cameos in the movie are by far and away, I think, the Wolverine montage. Absolute cinema! Now, of course, the headline out of this, the big flashy headline is that Henry Cavill briefly shows up as one of the Wolverines. They're all Hugh Jackman except for one. And there's a really great joke about how poorly Henry Cavill was treated by DC. It's funny because it's true. But on that note, as good as he might look as Wolverine, the role is clearly still occupied by Hugh Jackman. Henry Cavill, always the bridesmaid. But still, Henry Cavill has yet another franchise. Well, sometimes he's the bride, but it never seems to work out. But he's going to, he's a franchise romantic at heart. And he's going to try again with Chad Stahelski's upcoming Highlander reboot. Starts filming in January. All right, now let's talk Wolverines. After 24 years of playing the character, my goodness. Thanks to the multiverse here, Hugh Jackman finally gets to honor the even longer legacy of the comic book icon himself. There's Old Man Logan, Patch, and Wolverine in his classic yellow and brown suit about to take on the Hulk, where he made his first appearance. Couldn't we have stayed in that universe just a minute or so longer? Gosh darn it. But here, to me, the most iconic Wolverines in this montage were the recreation of the famous Mark Silvestri comic book cover, a psychedelic hyper-accurate fever dream, which recalls, I think, Zack Snyder's work, particularly Watchmen. Then Short King Wolverine, a hilarious shout out and burn to all the fans who say they keep wanting to see comics accurate Wolverine in terms of his height. Adding the tight black V-neck overcompensating t-shirt was a very nice touch here. And then, of course, Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. Wow! So many comic book fans, including myself, got into the X-Men with this year-long multiverse event. But even as comic books have blown up over the past decade or so, it never gets any acknowledgement. So to see it here and done so well was an absolutely amazing gift for the fans. All right, so that's my ranking of the cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine. What did you think of the cameos in the film now that you've seen them and thought about them? How do you feel? Some of you, I'm sure at this point, have already seen the movie a couple of times. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your rankings. And then also, especially now that you know some of the comic and Hollywood history behind the actors and the characters. Share those thoughts and rankings down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.